If you got a motivated seller on the phone right now, would you actually close the deal? Here's the truth. The number one thing that gets you more real estate isn't more leads. It's how you handle the first conversation with the seller. I'm gonna break down exactly what separates the investors who walk away with a $40,000 deal. And before we dive in, I want you to grab a free resource that'll make this even easier. My Crush the Call PDF. It's a step-by-step breakdown of how to run a seller call the right way with scripts, examples, and proven questions. The link's below, grab it. Keep it open and follow along. Imagine two investors. They both get the same lead, same seller, same property, same numbers. One of them locks a $40,000 deal. The other, they don't even get a call back. What's the difference? It's not marketing and it's not budget. The difference is how they handle that first call. And if you master this one thing, you'll instantly separate yourself from 90% of investors who are leaving deals on the table. Okay, let's break it down. Here's something most people completely miss. The first impression either builds trust or kills the deal before it starts. Sellers can tell right away if they're talking to a professional or just talking to someone reading a script. I've listened to calls where the rep talked nonstop for 45 seconds. The seller couldn't even get a word in. Every single one of those deals, dead on arrival. Now contrast that with a local professional voice, someone who listens, someone who's conversational. The seller relaxes. They feel like they're talking to a real person who can actually solve their problems. That difference alone can be worth tens of thousands of dollars. And to speak on that, conversational, the people we're talking with, so think about it from their side. You have to have empathy, or you might be talking to someone that just inherited a home. They're going through a death in their family and they just inherited a home that might be a piece of crap. So when you're talking with these sellers, have empathy out of the gate as well. Most investors blow it right here. They think the first call is about price. So 30 seconds in, they're asking, how much do you want for your house? That's the fastest way to lose trust. The truth, the first call is about trust. Think of it like being a doctor. You don't hand out a prescription before you diagnose. You ask questions, you listen, you figure out what's really going on. That's why I tell the seller on the first call, hey, the whole objective of this call is to answer some questions you have about us, ask you some questions about your property, and see if it's a fit. And if I can ask you at the end of the call, if you think it's a fit, let me know. We'll take next steps, set up I'll come to your house, take a look at your property, things like that. But will you also promise me at the end of the call, if you think this isn't a fit, let me know, and then we'll part ways. I like positioning it that way because then at the end of the call, there are no maybes. It's basically, you know what, let's move forward, or you know what, no. At the end of the call, they tell you no. And then you get to find out why. Like, is it something you did? Is it a time thing? So I like doing an upfront contract. And the reason I like doing this is it lowers the pressure and it makes them open up. And here's the kicker. Like I said, we don't start the call out with price, but we do talk price at some point in the call. And when I ask them, how much do you want for your property? And they tell me, and I say, well, what's the best price you take for a cash offer? And they drop $10,000, $20,000. Sellers will often drop their number by 10 or 20%, sometimes even more. And I'm not necessarily trying to find out what their price is. I'm also gauging motivation here. So that's another tip. I've seen sellers go from $110,000 down to $85,000 right over the phone just because the investors shut up long enough to let them talk. Now, here's the part most investors never think about. You can run the perfect call, but if you don't lock in the appointment immediately, you'll lose it to a competitor. Motivated sellers don't wait. They're filling out forms sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're talking to multiple investors. Whoever gets them scheduled first usually wins. Now picture this, at 3 o'clock in the morning, think about this, someone's on the toilet or in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're just surfing on their phone and they're looking to find someone to buy their house. They may not even know cash buyers exist. They type into Google, sell my house fast, or I need to sell my house fast. Websites pop up. So what they do is they start filling out the forms. They're gonna fill out the first form, sometimes the second form, sometimes the third form. Now here's what happens, especially if you don't have good processes. At 3 o'clock in the morning, they're filling out all these forms, creating competition. That's why I set up instant Calendly links. The moment the seller fills out one of my forms, they get a text message from me asking them to book an appointment. No back and forth, no chasing. Basically, it's gonna say, thanks for filling out a form on our website. Here's a link for you to book an appointment for us to come give you an offer. Now I'm looking at two things. Number one, I wanna book the appointment because you back to the person sitting in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're scrolling, picture they just filled out a form. They got a text message on their phone. I just pulled them away from Google. They booked the appointment. They feel like they found what they're looking for and they don't go back and fill out other websites. But on the other side, I'm also looking at if somebody's gonna book an appointment online with someone to come to their house that they've never spoken with. I'm looking at that to see how motivated they are. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going on all the appointments. We're still gonna call and verify and talk to the person before we show up at their house. This is just a good way to cut the competition out and gauge their motivation. If you're starting to see how powerful this is, don't just watch. Grab the Crush the Call PDF I mentioned earlier. It's free, it's linked below. I'll walk you through these exact steps in writing so you can apply them right away. Seriously, it's a cheat sheet I wish I had when I started. When I originally got into real estate, I still had a full-time job. That's where the Calendly hack came from. I'm like, I need to get a hold of these people super fast. Sometimes I can't get back to them for 30 minutes. So I set up the SMS trigger and had them book an appointment, and it worked like a charm. And then I started building out and doing deals. That's where this tip came from. Another thing that separates the pros from the amateurs is honesty. If you're wholesaling, be upfront. Sellers can smell BS from a mile away. I've dealt with wholesalers that I was buying properties from, and they told me I gotta pretend to be the contractor. If the seller finds out later, the deal's dead. Trust is destroyed. But when you're upfront, sellers respect that. They'd rather deal with someone honest than someone shady. And that reputation carries into every future deal you do. And here's the last piece that might be the simplest. It's often ignored. Go to the property fast, same day if you can. Why? Because every seller is talking to multiple investors. If you wait a week to show up, you've already lost. I've closed deals simply because I was the first one to show up in person. The other guys, they're still scheduling. And I've looked at this. This is very important. If you talk to someone today, try to get out in front of them today or tomorrow. Further that appointment goes out in the future, higher the likelihood they are going to cancel that appointment. You're going to lose that deal. So let's connect the dots. Who's on the line? How you run the initial call? Locking the appointment? Being transparent? Showing up fast? This is the system that turns leads into deals. And remember, lead quality still matters. That's where motivated leads comes in. We deliver exclusive, motivated seller leads in real time. But the real multiplier, how you crush the call once those leads come in. So here's the golden rule. Every lead is an opportunity, only if you know how to handle it. The number one thing that gets you more real estate deals is not buying more lists or chasing shiny objects. It's mastering the first call. Because when you build trust, uncover motivation, act fast, you'll close deals that your competition leaves on the table. Now grab the free Crush the Call PDF in the description. It's yours. And it's the exact framework I just walked you through and that I currently still use. And if you're ready for consistent flow of high quality, motivated seller leads, check out motivatedleads.com. We'll make sure the opportunities are there. Now you know exactly how to turn them into deals. Click below, grab the PDF, and I'll see you in the next video.